LSAC developed the LSAT-Flex because they could not administer the LSAT in person for the March LSAT or the April LSAT, but the show must go on. Applicants want to take the LSAT, they want to apply to law school, and law schools need applicants. And so this was a way for LSAC to work around the fact that they could not administer it in person, at least for the short term. And I was actually quite impressed they were able to roll it out so quickly also. I think that I was expecting it to be maybe by July at the earliest, but they've got this out by May. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think this speaks to the fact that LSAC is serving the needs of law schools in particular, helping them get applicants. LSAC also faces additional pressure from the GRE, which recently moved to at-home online testing as well. And so to compete, that of course sparks innovation. To start with, I think they've got to call it something different just to distinguish it from the old school in-person paper and pencil LSAT. Then you have the digital tablet LSAT. So calling this one digital also might be a little bit confusing. I suppose they could have called this the online LSAT or the at-home LSAT, but they chose to go with LSAT-Flex perhaps to give it a startup-y tech kind of innovative name, a little bit of branding there, and to communicate to law schools as well that they are at the forefront of change and they are being adaptive and flexible. So I think that was part of the idea for the name. As for what this LSAT-Flex actually is, it is an at-home online LSAT. The biggest change, though, is that it is 3 sections, not 5. There is no experimental section on the LSAT-Flex, and there is only 1 section of logical reasoning rather than 2 sections, giving students the chance to be done with the LSAT-Flex in about 2 hours. Well, I doubt law school applicants want a longer exam. I think, if anything, it's a more pleasant experience to be doing it at home and to be doing only 3 sections rather than 5. And we can get into this, but I think some applicants will be disappointed with this if they are relatively stronger in logical reasoning, given that logical reasoning has gone from being half of the scored questions to only being 1/3 of the exam instead. Logic games is approximately 1/4 of the exam for the traditional in-person administration. Now it's approximately 1/3. In practice, it's slightly less than that because it's typically 23 questions on average rather than 25. Reading comprehension, just as with the in-person, is typically around 27 questions, so slightly more than 1/3 of the LSAT-Flex. Logical reasoning, about 1/3 exactly, about 25 questions, and the overall LSAT-Flex will be approximately 75 questions. They say approximately to give themselves some wiggle room, and my interpretation of that is the approximately even number of questions per section allows for them to go with the traditional number of questions per section. Again, logic games around 23, logical reasoning around 25, and reading comprehension around 27. There does appear to be flexibility regarding the time of day. LSAC announced today that it will be administered on May 18th and May 19th, and students will be able to book a time. And so I imagine that morning people will be able to choose a morning time, afternoon people will be able to choose an afternoon time, and I'm not sure about this, but it would be nice if they also allowed evening times for night owls and those who like to work better in the evening. And what I'm especially excited about is the possibility of eventually offering this internationally as well to students overseas, since the situation there may be difficult also to administer in person. And then it accounts for time changes and time differences. People could be taking it at midnight local time potentially. They initially said that they were looking to do this only when the public health situation required it, but I've seen a slight shift in the wording on their website indicating an openness to potentially continuing LSAT-Flex beyond the coronavirus situation, and I don't see why not. The logistical benefits would be enormous. They had a number of issues getting tablets across the country, across North America altogether. A lot of tablets malfunctioned and didn't work properly. And for applicants as well, a lot of them wouldn't be able to book test centers locally. They'd have to take flights or drive long distances or stay in hotels overnight. And this removes all of those problems. I could see it adding an additional layer of stress, knowing that every question counts and each question counts more than it would have otherwise. But alternatively, we're removing a lot of the endurance factor. So rather than doing 5 sections and having your brain fried by the end, you're done in 2 hours, shorter than some feature-length films. I think this simply requires a bit more of a warm-up prior to starting. You have no time to get warmed up on section 1 when it counts and there's only 3 sections. So I would encourage students, as I would before, do a game prior, do a passage prior, or a couple of logical reasoning questions, just so the first questions you're doing on the scored LSAT aren't the ones that count. They're using a company called ProctorU, which is actually the same company that's handling testing security for the GRE and the GMAT, as well as even high school advanced placement exams. So to me, ProctorU is the real winner in all of this because they're profiting from all of the exams moving online, at least the ones that I mentioned. And so they're monitoring applicants with a webcam and a microphone. They're looking at the space in which you're taking the exam. And so anyone taking this should make sure that their roommates, significant other, family members, and pets are all going to be out of the room for the duration of the exam, or at least they won't be interrupting you and won't be in the field of the camera potentially talking at all, because that, of course, could be a test security issue. And interestingly, ProctorU is actually also using what they call AI, who knows what that means, to monitor things like your eye movements to potentially flag cheating. A lot of test takers are confused and just looking to get all the details possible. LSAC has rolled this out pretty quickly, and they've been dripping out information bit by bit. And we only found out today, for example, that logical reasoning will not be double weighted to give it equal weighting to the prior in-person LSAT. They only announced today that it's going to count as 1/3. All questions are worth the same. But I also made a poll in the group asking students, do they prefer each section to get equal weighting, or would they prefer logical reasoning to have double the weighting? And overwhelmingly, students indicated that they like the idea of each section being worth the same, no one section having inordinate weight relative to the others, which to me is actually quite a shift. So I think applicants overall seem to be happy about it, but they also still have concerns at the same time, in part simply, I think, because this is new. I mean, the LSAT has been in the same format since June 1991 with relatively few changes. But with time, applicants, I think, if the LSAT-Flex does become the new normal, I think applicants will overall prefer it simply because it's a shorter testing experience. And at least in my view, the comfort of taking it in your own home, not having travel stresses or the stresses of being able to book a testing center, I think overall it's a more student-friendly experience. And I think students will be happy about it. This is actually not an open registration LSAT. This one in particular, the May LSAT-Flex, is only open to people who were previously registered for the April LSAT. So they're limiting the number of people who could take this. And it's still going to be a lot of people because it's both the March and April LSAT registrants, at least in North America. So it's about 18,000 test takers who could take this exam. But potentially for LSAT-Flex in the future, let's say if you want to take the LSAT-Flex, you could register for the June 8th LSAT, because I don't see how that one's going to go forward, given that many states in the US have stay-at-home orders until June 10th. The June 8th LSAT will also be canceled, and that would then be rescheduled as an LSAT-Flex. So anyone who wants to take it could go for that one. All the work they invested in transitioning the LSAT from paper to digital on tablet, they were already halfway there. So it's not that much more additional work for them to make it online. I'm sure on their end, it's a ton of work, but at least they already got halfway there already. And like I said earlier, all the logistical issues that they avoid by putting it online, it's easier for everybody. So this could have been the push they needed to finally move ahead with this. And I think it's hard to go backwards on technology. So I have a hard time seeing how they wouldn't stick with this once they work out all the kinks. All the content is the same. And so I wouldn't want students to inordinately worry about the LSAT-Flex versus the regular. A couple of things I would say, though. One is that logical reasoning's importance has diminished slightly. Logic games and reading comprehension have increased in importance. So I might give reading comp more attention than previous. Logic games, which in my view has always been the most perfectible section, is also worth more as well. So I would spend more time on each of those, maybe a little bit less on logical reasoning. And then the other side of this is the test day simulation experience as well. So you're doing 3 sections, not 5. And so you want to practice also in your comfortable home environment, the same place you'll do the actual thing. And so adjust your test day simulation appropriately. Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.